בחמלה שחזרת בי נשמתי 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 בחמלה רבה אמונתך the words just la la la. Mondali lefanecha, mondali lefanecha, mondali lefanecha, mondali lefanecha. שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה שחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך רבה אמונתך. That is our prayer of gratefulness that we begin with, and mostly gratefulness for this community of practice, and it's just a time that we need spiritual practice so much, and we can lift each other up, we can support each other in our practice. And a practice is there for us in order to rise to the challenge of this moment. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what the challenge of this moment is, but let's just look around the Zoom room, beam a little bit of support to each other, sending love, support, believing in each other's just
such beloved, sweet, juicy faces. Wow.
So even if you're here for the first time, this is your family.
Yeah.
So a few days ago, I got an email from Vivi, who is here, reminding me about what day this is. And I might have remembered, but I might not have, so I thank you, Vivi, for reminding me that this, in the Jewish calendar, it is the 17th of Tammuz, and it is a day that is it's a remembrance of a shattering, of a breaking. And, they say that there were actually 5 bad things that happened on this day. And it was kind of like the beginning of the end for the temple, for that holy place that we built. That something, that the walls of Jerusalem were breached, were broken. And I can't help but thinking that Jerusalem, in my cosmology, represents the heart. And there has been a shattering of the walls of that heart. And it's a hard thing, and ultimately it's a good thing, because this is the way that rebirth happens, where the breaking of the old and entering into the place of the void, which is the place of creativity for our lives. And it feels like there's been a shattering in the whole world, and we need to pay attention, rise to the challenge. So there's in the history of shatterings, this day of the 17th of Tammuz was also the day that it was said that Moses went up the mountain to receive the commandments, and 40 days later he came down. So it's 40 days from Shavuot till now, and he came down, and what he saw was the the sin of idolatry, the golden calf, and this terrible thing that was going on, and he broke those tablets. And this, so that was like the first breaking that the 17th of Tammuz represents. I wanted to share with you this midrash, this story. There's a story that when Moses went up the mountain and stayed for 40 days, God personally inscribed the Torah onto the tablets that Moses carried. They were made holy by the signature of the divine. When Moses descended the mountain carrying these holy tablets, he saw below him the people worshiping and celebrating the golden calf. Moses cried out to God, "Look at what our people are doing. If I bring them this Torah inscribed with the divine hand, they will make this into an idol too. They will worship it instead of you." God heard the cry of Moses and sent a strong wind which blew the stone tablets out of his hand. They smashed at his feet into 1,000,000 particles of dust, each particle inscribed with the signature of God. Then God sent all the winds, north, east, south, and west. They lifted up those holy particles, each inscribed by the hand of God, and scattered them across the wide world until a fine dust covered our planet. "If the people wish to know me," said God, "they can ponder and appreciate my creation. When their eyes are opened, they will see my handwriting everywhere." So that's the shattering that calls us to open our eyes, to be able to find this place of creativity in our hearts, to be able to raise up the divine sparks and create a new world. And everything, it's all there. Everything we need is there. So so my path has been the path of the holy artist. I know that I'm going to say me, but I think everybody is here to create this holy world together. And what I understand about creativity is that in order to be in that place of creativity, we have to do this one thing, which is to embrace paradox. And so that's kind of the theme of tonight's Kzoom, is the embrace of paradox. That creativity comes out of not choosing one or the other of the dichotomies that we are given in life, but instead opening ourselves wider and creating from that place that I call the between, that rejects those either ors. And it's not, it's this world is made out of opposites and contradictions. Walt Whitman said, "Do I contradict myself? Very well. Then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes." And I would say that of all of us. And Rumi said that God teaches by means of opposites, so that you have two wings to fly, not one. So I've been sort of, in this past week, thinking about paradox, about how essential it is for us to understand what paradox is and to understand what it means to get bigger, to embrace the contradictions of life in order to find a new path that is not the either or path. So I wanted to share with you a little scene from a play that I wrote a long time ago about it was a dialogue with Martin Buber, and I was there was a student in the play was complaining and saying, "When I look at my life, there's always been some pressure to choose. You're either verbal or nonverbal. You're a musician, you're a writer, a poet, or a philosopher, a homebody, or an adventurer. You can't be everything. You can't do both. You have to choose and become good at one thing." Well, I've been frustrated with the system of choice. It just doesn't seem to reflect the reality that I feel and live inside. And I'm beginning to feel that these choices have been handed down to me are not only limiting, but somehow arbitrary. And the between is a much vaster space. That's where I can really be myself. The trouble is that a lot of these choices I accept unconsciously, and when my actions are based on the acceptance of an unconscious choice, that I'm no longer really responding. And then Martin Buber comes to me and says, "Yes, that's the key, isn't it? And truly coming into relation and responding with one's whole being, there arises a paradoxical unity of what one usually understands only as alternatives. For instance, there exists a deep belief in the inherent duality between love and justice, or between dependence and freedom, good and evil, sacred and profane. If these categories become rigid and separate, there is a tendency to ignore the reality of paradox and to ignore the infinite possible alternatives to those insistent either-ors of our age." And so that's what we're faced with in this moment, these insistent either-ors of our age. And we're sort of like set into, to different camps, and we are pulled kind of apart. In my study of paradox, there was somebody named Patricia Spadaro who said, "The greatest cause of stress is our inability to recognize and participate in the play of paradox." The greatest cause of stress. So we're literally being kind of pulled apart, and we end up cutting ourselves off. unless we take that risk and we step into the between and we embrace paradox, which is two truths that seem contradictory, but actually they're both true if we get big enough. So that's where I want to go today and bring you some practices that kind of embody some, I think, very important paradoxes. You ready to go for it? Yeah? So, I want to look at this first practice that's called dafka. Dafka, it's one of these wonderful words. It's dafka, one of these wonderful words that that comes from the word dvekut, dvekut, and dvekut is the practice of cleaving, of connecting myself to the unity. So the first part of the chant says, my soul goes after you, goes after you. There's this great kind of yearning in me, and I take this wild adventure and I go wherever it takes me because the effort that I bring to it and the force of my love is going to, bring me on a journey, on a search, on an adventure. Mm-hmm. And so I sing, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha. So there I am on that journey, and then suddenly there's a realization, and I say, oh, bi tamcha yeminecha. Oh, all I have to do is lean back into the arms of the beloved. I am held. I am already there. I have arrived. I don't have to go anywhere. I can just lean back. I can rest in that place of unity. And I say, Bi tamcha yeminecha, Bi tamcha yeminecha, Bi tamcha yeminecha, Bi tamcha yeminecha. So I live with these contradictory truths that I need to go on this great, sort of quest to find my dvekut. And also, no, I also just need to be. I need to rest in what is already holding me. And my logical mind says, how can these both be true? And yet, when I expand to embrace this paradox, it brings me to a whole new level. And that's where I want to go with you. Okay, so we're going to chant them concurrently, consecutively, and then it becomes a round, so that both are happening at the same time, and we can take it in and expand to embrace this paradox of who we are as spiritual beings. Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Dafka nafshi acharecha, Bi So let's close our eyes and feel that place in you that wants to soar, that wants to search, that wants to go for it. Go wherever you need to take, wherever this adventure takes you. Find that place in you, that impulse. And now find this other place in you, this realization that all you need to do is rest in God, that you are held, you are supported, you can relax, you can sink in to this truth. And see if you can find both truths at the same time, and just feel your heart expand to embrace these contradictions. So we are on this quest, and we have already arrived. And part of our quest is the unification of all these different parts of ourselves, and all these parts live inside us, And something happens in the synergy of those parts when we don't give up one part of ourselves in order to live that other part of ourselves. So, it's amazing the way that our liturgy came into being. As some of the, the rabbis who were our ancestors looked into the Psalms, and sometimes they looked into the line in a psalm and they said, yeah, but so, I'd like to add something to that, or I'd like to tweak it a little bit. Can you imagine the chutzpah to do that with the Psalms of David? So they looked at Psalm 86, which said, Ve'achei levavenu yir'ah et shemecha. Is unify our hearts so that we can be in awe of God. And they turned to each other and they said, yeah, it's true, but don't we need love also? If we're just in that place, the place of yir'ah is kind of fear and trembling and it's like the awesomeness, right? And that, the psalmist said, that's what will open us to the divine essence. And so the liturgist said, yeah, that is true, but if we don't also have love, I don't know if it's going to work. And in a sense, those are two different aspects of my being that I need to open and embrace the paradox of this sweet, flowing, intimate, loving place in me and this kind of wild, awesome, trembling place in me. I need to find them both, and only then will I find the unity inside me. And when I find the unity inside me, then I will know the unity of God and of everything. Because that's the key, really. If I am fragmented, if I have not kind of accepted and loved and, brought together all of those pieces of myself, then I'm going to project that brokenness out on the world. I'm not going to be able to see the unity out there. So this prayer, unifying the heart, comes in our liturgy in the paragraph before the Shema. It's preparing us for the moment of unity consciousness. And it's saying, let's do this work inside our hearts. And then, Shema Yisrael, then we can listen and hear Echad and know the unity. So let's do this work, and the work is to find those places inside us that sometimes contradict one another. And I think about even like being in this crazy world where I read the newspaper and I am in this shaky kind of place. It is so awesome, the time we're in. And, and then what I need to also do is to find also that place of love and hope and sweetness at the very same moment. Like, I'm not going to totally push away, that news, but I want to hold it in love. And so I want to take that paradox and embody it so that I can find the wholeness inside me, so that I can make the wholeness the healing of the world. Does that make sense? Oh, this calls for a different key on my shruti. If anybody has a shruti with them.
What key now?
So just tune into the heart. You might want to touch your heart and breathe into the heart. See if we can become whole inside.
לבבינו, ויחד לבבינו, לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ויחד לבבינו, לבבינו, לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ויחד
Imagine breathing into the heart and finding there chambers of the heart that have maybe not been opened yet. Allow the power of these words to open up all those contradictory places inside your own heart. that we contain multitudes. Sometimes these paradoxes are things that we struggle with. And sometimes we have unconsciously kind of accepted one side of the paradox and pushed away the other side. And then we go through a process, a journey of accepting it. I think of some of the most, the paradoxes that bring us to a place of creativity. I think of Einstein saying that matter and energy can be either a wave or a particle, depending on the experiment. It's like that was a moment for Einstein that was the beginning of a whole creative explosion of quantum leap in consciousness. I think of the paradox that the only thing that is constant is change. That the only certainty is uncertainty. I think of the paradox that the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. I think of the paradox of that, good leadership is being in service to something larger. I think of the paradox of St. Francis, who said that it is in giving that we receive, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. And that Lao Tzu, who said that to be empty is to be full. It's only when we resist, that the stress begins to get to us, really. And when we open to that paradox, it's not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of a journey. And the journey is one of the creative force in us that is, in a way, getting bigger in order to embrace that paradox. And I, all through my life, it feels like I keep rediscovering this truth, and setting myself again on the path. So there is a practice that I want to do that's called longing, and it carries in it a paradox. And for those of you, other of you who have studied with me before, you've heard this story about how, I love animals, and so when I see an animal in a psalm, I'm like, oh, there's a deer. Oh, that deer is longing for water by the river bank. And my heart just goes out to that deer, and I feel that same longing inside me. And then I had this kind of a dialogue with the deer. Actually, I was the only one talking, but I was talking to the deer, and I was saying, wait a minute, dear. What is going on here? You are longing for something that's right in front of you. And then I looked at the next line of the psalm, and it said, oh, that's how my soul longs for God. I am longing for something that I already have. That feels like a paradox to me. So my soul is longing for God, and in a sense, in the longing itself, God appears. I experience God in that longing for God. So, to me, it broke open a certain dichotomy that says when you long for something, it means you don't have it. But actually, God is in the longing. that energy of longing, that beauty of my hunger, my thirst that is moving me in my life is the God force that is alive in me. Hope I didn't give it away or anything. So, all right. Zmira said that Tony wrote the Australian interpretation of it because
They don't, in Australia, apparently, they don't have deer, but they have kangaroo, and they don't have rivers, but they have billabongs.
no, I think the I think the billabong was
By the billabong.
Okay.
So the roo by the billabong. Is that right, Tony?
So let's see if we can find that paradox inside us. And, to be in a paradox, it means to totally give yourself to both of those contradictory truths. It's sort of like, I'm not going to give up my longing because I already have it, because the longing is absolutely necessary. So let's see if we can embody this paradox, that what we long for is right here. Well, back to different key.
That's better.
Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God. Kainashi Taro Elecha Elohim Kainashi Taro Elecha Elohim. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God. Kainashi Taro Elecha Elohim Kainashi Taro Elecha Elohim. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O Kein nafshi taro elecha Elohim. Kein nafshi taro elecha Elohim. Just as the deer longs for water by the riverbank, so does my soul long for you, O God.
So let's again step into each side of this paradox, feeling our longing to know God, to drink from those Edenic streams. And then a moment comes where we lean back and feel ourselves supported by this whole world. And that thirst in that moment is quenched. And yet, we are human and we step back into the journey. So I think that the core paradox is that we are both human and divine. We are made in the image and likeness of God. We have that divine connection in us. And at the same time, we are sent to our humanity, to the struggle, to the contradictions of life, to dive into this being that we are, that holds all these contradictions. And that feels like the biggest paradox that maybe all the other paradoxes come out of. So there is this wonderful paradox that the book of Lamentations, which is the place that in our tradition that holds the most grief and sadness, and we read it on Tisha B'Av in 3 weeks, that describes this terrible breaking. And yet, at the end of the book of Lamentations, there is this kind of vision of redemption. It is this line that says, that Hashivenu Ya Elecha, like, let us turn to you, God, and we will be turned. We will be turned. And I think this, kind of holds a contradiction for me, in that here I am in this place of Lamentations on the 17th of Tammuz, the place where I feel the brokenness of the world, the brokenness of my heart. And inside my heart there is like this just a subtle turning towards the oneness. And when I can do that, when I can achieve just that slight turn of my being towards the truth of oneness, then something happens, which is I am turned. I am returned. I am embraced. I am, sort of given back to myself again. So it's this paradox of like, oh yeah, I need to do the turning. I need to, to do that struggle of turning away from this, my addictions and my neurosis and my places that I get stuck. I need to do the turning away from that. And then, v'nashuva, I will be turned, I will be welcomed in. And in that moment, all I have to do is surrender. So that's the paradox I hold, is can I surrender to the love that's been waiting for me all along? So I wanted to, before we do this practice, to again look around the Zoom room and look and see, like, we are in this together.
Mm-hmm.
We
have a holy, sacred community here.
We're in this dilemma together. Isn't that a great word, dilemma? That's a paradox. It's like we're in these places of contradiction together. And it can feel sometimes like a burden that we each carry alone. And I think it's so important as we do our practice to really look, to really feel the blessing of spiritual community. There are 71 squares here, and all of us are holding those multitudes. So I want to chant this chant, and this is a chant that we're going to be chanting during the High Holy Days. And we are going to be doing Kzooming the High Holy Days and doing practice together. Just to let you know that I'm excited about that. And this is one of the chants that really helps me enter into it. So today, on this 17th of Tammuz, this day of brokenness, I want to open up to a vision of return, of coming home, and actually allow the force of that brokenness to send us, to give us the power to make that turn. Now let us
turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned to the one. Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua. Now let us turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned to the one. Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Hashivenuya, Lechavanashua, Yeshua. Now let us turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned. Now let us turn, return, and be turned to the one. Yeah.
Woo. Oh. So let's see. There's a lot of
Chatting.
chat now. So Shelby says the place of contradiction is my comfort zone. Yes.
All right. Way to go,
So
Shelby.
it's really that creative, where that creativity arises from, and that's what we need now in this world. We all need to be artists of the holy. We all need to create this world out of the brokenness and recreate ourselves as well. So there was a suggestion that at the end of our time together, that Deborah Harris, who's sitting right there, said, "Why don't we do a little breakout just to meet a couple other people to say hello, maybe say what we received from this time together, and meet each other at the end of our class." And so I'm going to say we do a breakout room. No, I see some people that got scared and left.
Yeah, so before, if you're done, if you've allotted an hour and you need to go on to the next thing, but just to remember, we can go to the website and give donations.
Definitely give a donation.
We appreciate that. We love them. We love our donations. And in 2 weeks, we're going to take a break. We're not going to have a class in 2 weeks.
We'll be here.
We'll be here next week.
But anyway, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to
Those of you who want to
go and meet each other in your community here. Just for how many? So 20. So there is 20. Let's say 20 rooms.
Right.
Okay. And I'm gonna call you back in like 7 minutes.